Connor O'Gara with us on the Lewis Automotive Hotline. A little earlier than usual. Of course, you read Connor and all of his columns at Saturday Down South, where he's the national senior columnist. And a very pleasant good afternoon to you, Connor. What's going on?
Gentlemen, doing well. Draft week. I feel like I always look forward to this, but I feel like right about now is when we're going to start to see takes just all over the place, and I'm here for it. I'd really like to consume as much of it as possible.
Well, hold on. Before we do draft week, you and I have talked before about the ability to watch spring games on Matthew Loves Ball on YouTube. Now, nobody's putting their spring game on television. Does Matthew Loves Ball still do spring games? And do you watch it if it's out there now? Because these things seem to be going the way of the dodo bird.
So I stopped. And it's a shame because it was something I really looked forward to. And I feel like spring games kind of peaked in 2021. But with everybody basically taking Matt Rule's lead, not having these games televised, and I shouldn't even say televised, you can't even stream these games. You're getting basically what fan videos are taking or what their social media team is putting out there. And that's about it. That's tough because you can really control the narrative if you're in that spot. And I think that's a difficult thing to kind of look at if you're in a position like myself where I like to be able to figure out, do I think AM is actually going to be able to defend against zone coverage this year? Does it actually feel like Auburn does have the most talented group of receivers they've ever had? I'd like to be able to watch spring games and have my own overreactions as opposed to just reacting to other people reacting. Matthew Loves Ball served a great purpose in the early part of the 2020s. I will forever miss it. But unfortunately, like the televised spring game, it appears to be a thing of the past.
Hey, speaking of the NFL draft, Connor, is there anybody that you have that's kind of been on the rise? I know Landon Jackson put up big numbers at the Combine. I think he's a top 50 pick. Sleeper guy, Tesla, running a 4.3. Is there a couple guys around the SEC you think that have improved their draft stock since the season's over?
I think Landon Jackson's a big one, and I realize the audience I'm speaking to when I say this, and I'm preaching to the choir in so many different ways, but we have a mock draft that's going to be coming out on Wednesday on SaturdayDownSouth.com. We do one of them. Adam Spencer and I have been doing this every year. We do it the week of the draft. And I got to that last pick of the first round, and I'm like, you know what? Philadelphia Eagles, Landon Jackson, that's a match made in heaven, in my opinion. And seeing someone like him that went to Arkansas knowing that he was going to be asked to do a lot and has answered every single call. To me, that is so impressive at this stage of his career, and really scary moment, obviously, what he went through in that Mizzou game. And for him to be able to bounce back and have the pre-draft process that he's had so far, it just speaks to how resilient that dude is, because he could have gone to the NFL last year. He decides to come back, didn't put up monster numbers, but still showed you why you can win with a guy like that. And I hope he goes to the right situation. I think he's somebody that, after the way that he performed at the Combine, everybody kind of turned around and went, wow, maybe we shouldn't be, overlooking this guy and assuming that he's going to be there in that second round. I could definitely see a world in which he comes off the board that first round. I know Sam Pittman is going to be at his draft party. That means so much to his family to be able to kind of take that in, and knowing, what Landon Jackson has endured in his career. I think that's going to be a really special moment. I hope he's one of those guys that hears his name called night one.
Where do you see Jackson Dart coming in on the draft? To me, it looks. I think his game can translate to the NFL. Mobile, accurate. It looks to me like he was, viewed as the leader on that team the last couple of years. He's moved up the draft board. So where do you see Jackson?
Could you comp him like a Jeff Garcia? I'm trying to think of a mobile guy like. Who would you kind of comp him like?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's so tough because Lane's offense is very specific, and the tough thing with comps for him is that I thought for his entire career he was trying to do a Matt Corral imitation, and I hated that. I was kind of annoyed with Jackson Dart for the majority of his college career because it was like, dude, just be yourself. You have to wear number 2. You don't have to wear the same headband that Matt Corral wore. Like, we get it. You think you're really tough. You don't like to slide. Your helmet comes off. It's like, come on, man. Like, just find your own identity and just be yourself. But the player that he became in college was really good. Now, the question that everybody's going to have is, can you trust Lane's system to translate to the NFL? Because I don't know if a lot of people realize this. Lane's best NFL quarterback in terms of a guy that he developed when he was a head coach, Matt Barkley. Matt Barkley spent 7 years in the NFL. He had an 11 to 22 TD to INT ratio. He went 2-5 as a starter in the NFL and was a long-time backup. He's a fourth-round pick. And this is going to be what Jackson Dart is trying to overcome. And you could say, like, all right, well, is that just a Lane Kiffin thing? Well, a lot of it is because they run so much of their action with tempo, with play action. I mean, his play action numbers are way higher than anybody in the NFL. So what's it going to look like when you're actually having to huddle, to not necessarily rely as much on tempo? Are you going to have to go under center a lot more because you didn't have to do that very much at all in college? Like, these are the real questions that are being asked. I don't know that he's going to go off the board at 9 to the Saints. Like, you're seeing some buzz, especially with the Derek Carr shoulder injury that everybody's been talking about. But he's fascinating because he should work in theory. But, you know, those are going to be things he's working against. And if he's asked to play in year one of his rookie season, which first-round quarterbacks are, then I do think that that's going to be an uphill climb for him.
Hey, Connor, a guy that I kind of like, I kind of wanted to get your comp on who do you think the safety from South Carolina, Nick, and I'm probably not saying his last name right, Nick Imanari, if I'm saying that.
Nick Imanari.
What do you Do you I think he's a can't miss. What do you think about him? Who kind of does his game translate to?
One of the most impressive combine performances ever. I mean, ever, really. Like, this guy put up numbers that were absolutely ridiculous after he was a 3-year starter at South Carolina and was somebody that they relied on a ton. Now, it was really weird the way that it ended. He basically, like, opted out of the second half of the bowl game, and it was very strange, like, his kind of falling out with that coaching staff. When I don't know if that was discussed or cleared, but what he did in the pre-draft process, to me, solidified he's going to have that late first-round market. Now, can he be kind of that hybrid? Because he's unbelievably physically gifted. Everybody knows that. But to me, it's going to be a question of, well, is he going to come in and be, you know, an Isaiah Simmons type of guy in the NFL? Because that's going to kind of be the expectation. Now, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a late round one market. I've seen him as high as like 15 or 16 in some of these mock drafts, but Nick Imanari is a stud. Like, as a true freshman, I remember a game against Georgia in which he's starting already in September and he gets hurt. And on the very next play, Todd Monken is like, we need to attack the South Carolina safety. And it was like an 80-yard touchdown to Brock Bowers immediately after. So, like, that's the type of player that he is. And I think he's going to be very, very highly valued after what he's been able to do with these pre-draft numbers.
So just to wrap up on the draft here, the SEC has an 18-year streak where they've had the most players drafted into the NFL. Does that continue or does it end?
If it ends, we should question why, because the Big Ten now has 18 teams. The SEC only has 16. And look, that's probably going to matter. I mean, there's 27 guys from Pac-12 schools last year that would have counted for the Big Ten this year. If you get what I'm saying, like UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington, like 27 guys from those schools that were picked last year, those totals will be going to the Big Ten. And obviously the SEC now has Oklahoma and Texas, but I still think the SEC is going to end up winning. That's just because every time that I've ever thought there could be a possibility of that, like last year, the SEC still runs away with this. Big Ten only had the third most of any conference last year. The Pac-12, ironically enough, in its final year, ended up having one more draft pick than the Big Ten. So, no, I do think that the SEC is setting itself up for that. I think it's going to end up being a first round in which possibly not even a top 5 pick for the SEC, which that hasn't happened since 2018, but could end up seeing like 15 or 16 SEC players come off the board in round one, and then could be getting into the low 60s with that total number. So, yeah, I would expect this to be the 19th consecutive year of that SEC dominance in the NFL draft.
See, I think you might. I think the first round, the SEC might not win the first round this year, but I think you're right, Connor. Once you kind of start getting those rounds 5, 6, and 7, I think they do go with some of that SEC pedigree.
I think round one, even they'll win though. Like, I think it's more so about there aren't those elite, unbelievable, you know, like a Jaden Daniels type pick. That's, well, we're talking about him in the top 2 or somebody that's going to be a top 3 guy. Like there's not that one. But I think even in the first round, you start to get into it, and you're like, all right, well, there could be, you know, 3 from Georgia, 3 from Alabama, 3 from Ole Miss, 3 from Texas, and then it quickly adds up, and you've got, like, Mizzou is potentially going to have multiple first-round picks as well, and you can kind of look, across the conference and go, oh yeah, well that I guess makes sense. Meanwhile, it seemed like Ohio State, that was unbelievably talented, doesn't have those unbelievable top half of the first round type of picks. So yeah, it is just kind of weird the way that it's been breaking down, but it feels like the SEC once again will win that title.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the home stretch for NBA and NHL playoffs. BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.